Hello and welcome to the Dad and Sons podcast. I am here with my lovely co-hosts, Liam and George. What are you guys doing today?
Oh god, it feels good to be back.
Does it?
Yeah, it feels like it's been, especially considering, obviously, you know, we had Greg on last time, and that was a bit of a...
Greg.
We tried to act professional for once, and pulled it off, but not our regular
Tried to act. That was a fantastic interview. He sent me an email after about how thoughtful and interesting the questions were.
Aww.
Yeah. I didn't ruin it this time. I didn't have enough time to ruin it. I totally wanted to ruin it so badly. But George had like a structure there. He had the serious face on. I was like, nah. I don't have enough time for this.
I had a timed outline with like questions organized by priority with like limits we couldn't go over.
And I never got to tell him. I was like, I'm pretty sure I met you and told you how much I loved your games when Transistor was coming out. I met you at I think it was a PAX, and you're like, yeah, it's all right. Like,
thanks, dude.
Thank you.
I hear it all the time.
I totally forgot to tell him that, man. I was like, oh god, I had to go to work. Work, guys. Ugh.
Yeah, it's been busy. We've been all busy. Like, Matt's like nailing it. I'm dying, and George is George.
I don't know. I just really like dislike the way my life situation is arranged by now. I spent the past week playing way too much Hunt Showdown. Going back to my crack cocaine edition with that shit. Yeah, it's such a dragon to chase because I'm a fan of the solo play, right? And the solo rounds will either make you feel like an amazing Solid Snake or a dumbass Austin Powers, and it's psychologically nefarious how that game digs into my brain and makes me want to play another 30-45 minute round.
Back onto the crack cocaine.
Yeah, I haven't dived back in quite some time.
Dude, I mean, I love Hunt Showdown. It's an amazing, it's a great amazing game. Recommend it to people who like clever multiplayer stealth stuff. But Mike, that game is gonna be my downfall. I spend way too much time doing that and not living as a human being in planet Earth.
Oh god, I can't wait till you get addicted to like VR chat or some shit like that. You just like sit around and listen to some dude play guitar. Or some shit.
Well, you're socializing in that case. The Hunt Showdown player base is like fucking toxic sometimes.
Yes, it is.
And that makes me want to go back and get revenge. Like, there's so many things about this game that latch into my brain's vulnerabilities that fucking 5 years from now, I'm probably going to be still playing Hunt Showdown. Everyone's going to wonder where I went. I'm just going to be in a room playing Hunt Showdown in like a box under the bridge.
You could become the guy. You could just be the Twitch streamer, the guy who just plays Hunt, like the guy.
But I'm not good enough at it. I've seen YouTube people do solo runs, and they like I'm too old to have the reflexes they do. But I still just can't stop.
I know how we can fix that, George.
Oh yeah?
Play more.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But at what cost? At what
everything.
Cost?
Everything.
It's so weird you bring this up, right? Like, do we live in an era, right? And this kind of comes up because of something that happened recently to somebody I know. So how, like, I'm out of the loop here. Is being like a single game person a thing? Like, I know Fortnite and League of Legends and all that, but like, if you were the Hunt guy or you were the Rainbow Six guy,
it exists.
I think that's still a thing.
But you still have to be good, right? Can you be knowledgeable, or do you have to be like good at the game?
There's funny.
Yeah.
Preferably both.
I mean, I'm talking to the guy who made his living off Guild Wars 2 for like years, so I feel like...
Yes. And I was not good. I tell you that. I was not good.
So the reason I bring this up is because, interestingly enough, I found out that somebody I worked with has recently, a Japanese guy, recently quit his job because he's been doing YouTube stuff in the back. He's been a game developer for like 10 years or so, but he does YouTube stuff in the background. And he was like, I'm leaving because I'm going to try and pursue my passion, which is YouTube and making videos, right? And I was like, wow, okay, good on you. You know, if that's what you want to do, good. And I checked his YouTube channel out. It's all in Japanese. And he only had 2,000 subscribers. Now I was like, then maybe you bit the bullet too fast, my friend. And the thing he plays is an old PSP game from 2007. And that's all he does. Is he talks and plays this PSP game from 2007. And that's it. That's all he makes videos about. And he's obviously very good at it. It's a PSP game called Why Do I Do This For You, My Lord? Or something crazy. It's like it's a tower defense game where you're like a dungeon master. And the idea is you drop loads of enemies that dig holes for you and build like pathways. And then when the hero arrives, your enemy's AI that you positioned, he tries to make it through and you try to stop him. But the funny thing is, so his YouTube was not that big, but I checked out his Nico Nico Doga, which is like the Japanese YouTube, right? The Nico Nico. He had like 60,000 followers on it.
There we go.
And none of us knew about it. None of us. And I'm like, this dude is known by like 60,000 people in Japan. And his YouTube channel is like derelict. And it's all because of this one 2007 PSP game.
That's where the money's at.
And I was like, is this a thing? Is this really a thing? Can you like...
Maybe that's what I need to do. I need to switch from YouTube to Nico Nico.
Or play a PSP game from 2007.
Everyone did want me to stream more Danganronpa.
Oh my god. I look at that game and I'm like, is this one of those weird VN games?
Yes. Yeah, it is. It is a visual novel. It's a visual novel with some mini games.
Mm-hmm. George loves those mini games. The smut section in on top of the Sega store.
Oh, it totally does the Japanese high school with sexually anxious teenager things. Danganronpa is Japanese as fuck.
It is.
Yeah.
But it did remind me a lot of like 999 and Virtue's Last Reward and that series. What's the second game called? Yeah, 9 hours, 9 doors, 9 persons.
Is it called?
Yeah.
9999?
The 666 game, basically.
Yeah. What's the second one called? I forget what the second one's called. Virtue's Last Reward is the third one? Anyway.
18.
That was Bazinga.
I don't get it.
I guess you're not at that age yet, George.
You haven't finished the second Danganronpa.
I think I'm older than you, George, right? That's what we established, right? That I'm the oldest one on this podcast.
Wait, really?
That's what we established here?
You don't look like it.
Yeah, well, apparently I am.
I mean, you've been out working hard, like a good dad. That's for sure.
All this gray hair here.
Apparently you go to the gym regularly, the pandemic gym.
Oh, man. See, now I'm never going to go back now. The thing is...
Throwing the shade.
I keep stopping and going back because they keep closing it and going back. It's just like, okay, I can't do this. My body's just going to give out on me.
Nah, don't do it. You don't need a gym.
Oh my God.
Just play Beat Saber. Just
definitely need the gym.
play Burn Your Fat with me.
Beat Saber. Man, I need to move this bed, okay? Or get my own place.
You've been Beat Sabering in that bed, that's for sure.
I've never had a gym membership, but I have had the self-discipline to stick to my own like calorie counting weight loss programs every now and then throughout my life.
You're like the notorious Switch player. You cycle and like play the Switch somehow.
I've never felt the temptation to subscribe to a gym because I've managed to lose weight by myself.
Well, it's not about losing weight. It's about being able to keep it off.
Consistent, yeah.
Yeah.
Best thing I ever did was join a gym, and then I moved to Kyoto, realized that drinking by the river was more fun, and then it all went south.
I wonder if it's a lifestyle thing, because I still ride my bike everywhere. Like, I have to walk around. I live downtown in the city. I do a lot of walking, and I wonder if that's why I've never felt this temptation to actually subscribe to a gym and pay the like membership fees.
It's
And
quality of life. Like, just imagine being able to carry like 1 million groceries up the stairs and not feel a damn thing. Like that was like the first time I realized, like, I was like, oh my God, this is why you go to the gym.
These are lighter than air.
These are lighter than, I'm like, yes, it's just like pick it up. And that's I mean, that's basically it. I mean, other than sex.
some of the like spiciest conversations I've ever had behind the scenes that I've been too afraid to like go to Twitter and stuff are about how like I don't know how much of a fan I am of
oversharing with 60,000 plus people.
that, and also like there are some real material benefits to be made from losing weight. Like people do judge you based on your physical attractiveness, which is tied to how
Well,
much
fuck them,
free
though.
time and money you can spend losing weight and getting a haircuts and developing a style and stuff. But it totally makes life easier. And people judge. You learn real fast when you lose weight how people judge. Matt, you've been there, right? You used to.
Yeah, I used to be over
Yeah.
300 pounds. Yes, people look at me completely different. Yeah,
And you noticed how people change. They talk to you different.
They talk
Dating
to you
gets
different.
way fucking easier.
they smile at you. It's a different ball game. But fuck those guys.
Japan is amazing for this. Like, I was talking to somebody the other day about how you don't say something that's totally normal, like, oh, you're working too hard. You just don't say that in Japan. As we all know, we discussed many times about overwork in Japan. But the one thing you do point out to people, and it's not rude, according to Japanese people, is telling them they've put on weight or telling them they're overweight. Like, oh, you're looking pretty hefty today, sir. And you're like, oh, God, Jesus. Like they happily will be like, wow, you're like a tree. And I remember the time when I'd lost weight and I'd been going to the gym consistently was the day when kids stopped calling me Mr. Tree. And then I was like,
Tree.
well, there we go. I guess I lost a load of weight.
And that's some interesting cultural discourse, because when I think of tree, I think of tall, slender.
Fat orchid
Things.
trees.
Yeah, that's funny.
Fat stumps.
Like that makes me wonder like how different the mind's eye of a tree will look like, and
But
under
it's
different
still the
cultural influence.
connotation, right? It's like saying
Yeah,
to somebody,
yeah.
trees are not, it's not like saying you're a pig, you're an overweight pig or something, but it's the connotation that, hey, you need to lose some weight. You need to lose some weight. Like, it's funny,
Jeez.
we're talking about this, right? I'm big guy, but I'm not like,
No, you're not.
but I am.
You're not big,
I'm a big guy when people
you don't
are
even know
next
what
to
that
me.
is, man.
And compare too much time with the Japanese people.
Have you been a size 42, man? That's big.
How much do I weigh in pounds? I don't know.
You're probably like what, like 2 something?
I would not call you a big tree.
I'm like
220?
2.5 to 210 or something like
Oh,
that.
please. That's not big. Get out of here, man.
Maybe more heavier than that. But in Japan, I'm a big guy, right? I'm a big
Yes.
guy in Japan. And obviously, we all know, as I've mentioned enough now, I recently discovered a hernia that's freaked me the fuck out for the past odd
Yeah.
knows while.
So let's cue the Weird Al song.
And this is amazing, right? So I went with my Japanese partner to the GP, the doctor, to discuss this. And I was freaking out a little. I've come to realize I'm not very good when it comes to being sick, as I've never really experienced it before. But now I'm 30. I'm like cripplingly depressed about dying most of my days. But, slap some sense into me now and again. Anyway, went to the doctor and I had my stomach examined, etc., etc. And then as soon as I turn around to like put my t-shirt on, like the doctor imitates like this, like
Nah.
like I can't.
Humpty
How do
Dumpty,
I?
guys.
Like basically like oh, he's fat. Like he puts his arms out and he's like
With the tuba in the background.
he puts his arms out like this and he's like he inflates his cheeks quietly like to my girlfriend. So I don't see it, but to get the message across to her that I need to lose some weight, I'm like, dude, you are half the size of me. I'm not Japanese. I don't know how, but she was like in tears, like laughing about it. And I was like, that's sneaky fuck. Why don't you just tell me? He's my doctor. He's meant to tell me I'm meant to lose weight, not sneakily tell my girlfriend that I need to lose weight, the bastard.
The bastard.
Yeah.
The bastard. Well, thank God that bastard.
Wow.
I know. Cheeky fuck.
Yeah, man. Doctors are supposed to just tell you straight up, like, you need to fucking, yo, you about to die.
He just
You
was
need
like,
to fucking like lose some weight. Like that's what doctors here do. Like
I mean, that's what
tell
they're
you
supposed to
straight
do in
up.
Japan as well.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, that's weird. That's a weird culture. Maybe it's just because you're just like a foreigner.
Maybe he just thinks I'm sensitive. Which I think probably in that moment I was. I was like relieved I didn't have colon cancer or some nonsense.
Speaking of weird foreigners and cultural sensitivities,
Here comes Borat.
Wow. Okay.
yeah, do you guys care about Borat? Like, how big of a fan are you two?
I liked the guy. I liked Ali G, but I never liked Borat. Borat was just too much for me when it came out way back. I might appreciate it now, years later, but
yeah.
I actually also think I've only ever watched it once. And when I did watch it, I was on a date, so I was less interested. And this is like, what, 13, 14 years ago?
Man, I can't imagine making out through Borat. But anyways.
Even though the character is iconic, I actually can't remember much about the original film, apart from the catchphrases, right? That have infiltrated cultural.
Very nice.
They're nice. Wah, wah, wee, wah. Like, you know, that kind
of.
Subsequent Moviefilm is out. It is now appropriate to do Borat noises for like a week again. And I am a huge fan of the first movie. It is one of my favorite ones of all time. So before I went into it, yes, like I believe that with that film, that man elevated comedy to a whole new level. When you watch it nowadays, it's dated in many ways, but it also is like one of the most important cultural touchstones for like how American culture and comedy and how we view ourselves and the rest of the world viewed us had changed over the past 15 years.
Holy shit, George. That's
so
crazy.
Before I get into it, I did want to ask you guys if you care about spoilers or if you hold this to the same reverency that I did. I have a Borat poster in front of my face right now.
He's not
that
lying,
I've had
folks.
on my wall for
Holy
years.
Shit. I did not know you liked Borat that much.
That is amazing.
I love Borat.
So when you saw the trailer, you were like almost touching yourself.
Were you more excited about Borat 2 or the fact that a part of it takes place at where MagFest takes place?
All of it. I was totally, it felt like the right time and place. I mean, conservatives are ridiculous and easy to make fun of. This kind of service is needed in today's time and age. We absolutely positively need to laugh at ourselves and make fun of ourselves for it. And the trailer, had him pranking the CPAC convention at the MagFest hotel. But I realized when I was watching it, like there's a lot of magic that comes from seeing this stuff in theaters that you don't really get at home.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the shocking edginess of it doesn't work when you're seeing it as a straight to internet broadcasted thing on a computer screen. Like a lot of the nudity gags and whatnot. It seems like when you see that in a theater, you're like, how the hell did they manage to get this approved by all the different bureaucracies and agencies that are required to have a scene on a movie theater screen that uses an actual penis for gags? For whatever reason, penises are shocking and borderline off limits. But when you see it on a computer screen, it doesn't hit you as hard. And the other thing going on is that people nowadays, they're able to tell when they're being pranked.
Mm-hmm.
Borat himself obviously contributed to how much harder it is to do that sort of act now. But we also have gone through 15 years of people always being on guard for cameras rolling on them, always being on guard for like mean-spirited YouTube pranksters. People in this one are visibly apprehensive of these characters.
How many people pull out phones to film them back?
It's a gag that's used in the beginning of the movie. One of the recurring gags is that he has to put on increasingly ridiculous disguises as Borat to hide the fact that he is Borat disguised as other characters. Unlike the Borat and Bruno movies, the events in this case don't come close to inciting riots. There's a Rudy Giuliani climax that you'll already know if you've been reading the news that's kind of spoiled to you in the end. But so much more of it is like scripted drama with actors. And you can tell...
This is before COVID?
It was filmed during COVID.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah, a big plot point is how Borat reacts to being stuck and stranded in America when the virus breaks out.
Oh, wow.
And he goes to an anti-mask rally. He interviews people about their COVID conspiracy theories. And
was he wearing a mask? He wasn't wearing a mask in a lot of the trailers, right?
It goes back and forth depending on the situation he's in.
Oh, man, that sucks. See, that's the one thing that... Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I wasn't disappointed. I sure did get more Borat. It was still a well-made movie. But it just feels like we're at a time and a place where everyone knows by now that pranking comedy is not going to solve the problem. Like we absolutely need to expose and fix the bigotry in American society, the lack of education in American society. The international stereotype of Americans being fat and stupid is way worse than it was the first movie came out. But it seems like it's painfully apparent that this stuff is not gonna fix that.
How well does the movie approach the fact, I know you just said he wears disguises, but how well does it approach the fact that everybody can recognize Borat from a distance? Is it like funny in the beginning that people are like, oh lol, it's Borat, and he has to disguise himself, and then does it get old, or is it like pretty well handled? How the hell do you make a movie about a guy who pretends to be a fake Kazakhstani diplomat or something?
Also, there's the fact that since the first movie came out and social media has blown up, we all get a painful reminder of how he maybe shouldn't have picked a real country with the real people who have gone through some real shit as the basis for his character. But anyways, besides that point, it is... I would say that aspect is handled well because he puts on increasingly ridiculous disguises as increasingly ridiculous characters who are technically Borat wearing the disguise. The beginning of the movie has Borat being unable to function in society because everyone's chasing him wanting his autograph. So he starts putting on like a beard and denim overalls and trucker caps and trying to fake his fake Eastern European accent, faking an American Southern accent. And that stuff is hilarious. The characters that Borat plays, it's like Inception levels of disguise going on. That aspect of it, I do believe, was handled pretty smart.
I was watching this comedy and about this guy in this church, and it was like he was just kind of making fun of like the way pastors kind of like heal everybody, and he was like putting his hands on, when an audience member was going along with it.
Right.
And you see the close-up of his hand just touching the face. And it was hilarious. Like everyone was laughing. And it made me sad because we're never going to have that again, or we're going to be far away from that for years. I feel like no one's going to go back to that. And I want to know, how badly did that affect Borat for you?
Yes.
Like the mask thing, the no touching thing. Because like that was a huge thing in Borat, right?
Agreed. And people didn't like the Bruno movie as much as I did. I thought Bruno was an excellent movie as well, partially because of that scene at the end.
I forgot about Bruno.
Yeah.
At the end of Bruno, Sacha Baron Cohen stages an MMA-style fighting event called Straight Dave's Man Slam and Knockout. He then pranks the audience by having his male character start kissing and making out with another male character in the fight ring. And the audience goes ballistic. They start throwing stuff at him. It's borderline inciting a riot. That doesn't happen here because the crowd size is not there anymore. The crowds in general aren't there anymore. When he's walking around on the street, there's no one really to like look and react to him and stuff. It feels empty in ways that the first one didn't.
Fuck.
And it's evident that the culture has changed too. In the first movie, like you still, as crass and offensive as Borat is designed to be, it still had this like wholesome experience of him experiencing Southern hospitality and going on a great American road trip. Like as bigoted as the bigots are, they still welcome this strange, weird foreigner into their lives with open arms. And when that happens in this movie, you can tell those are actors and not real people, because no one's going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So a big part of it is his daughter, right? His fake daughter.
Yes.
How is that part?
Cool. There's a big focus on feminism and how women are treated. He goes to a debutante ball. I looked up what debutantes are because I never actually knew what that word meant. That's another thing you can do in this movie you couldn't do in the first, is have a tab of Wikipedia open, kind of demystifying a lot of the the fun mysteries of it. But yeah, his subplot, it's not a subplot, it is the plot. The daughter character is like a co-star of the show who like arguably almost steals the spotlight. Maria Bakalova, I believe is her name, and now all of a sudden she's a famous actress everyone knows from Bulgaria, which would not have happened otherwise. It's cool stuff. And you know, Rudy Giuliani gets borderline intimate in the interview with her. That would not have happened with any of the Borat characters either.
Wow.
So would you give it a Borat very nice?
I'd give it just a nice. The magic isn't there. It's still well made, but it's a different experience watching that kind of shtick in 2020 versus 2006.
I tried to get it out my head, but it just, the whole COVID thing and how everything kind of just kind of messes up a lot of the things that we enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps coming up, you know? Like I was just out with friends yesterday and we're talking about Friendsgiving.
Oh, I'll be doing one of those this year.
It's not going to be the same. We had a crazy Halloween party. I mean, my picture is from that Halloween party last year. We're not going to be able to have that again. You know, it's just kind of sad. I don't mean to bring it down, but it's just kind of sad, you know, and I don't know. Hopefully it ends. Hopefully soon, because I would like to go to Japan. I'm already ready. I got the stuff.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, exactly. We were meant to do it this year. Come on. I
got hopefully some free time around the time that we're gonna be doing it, and we'll make something fancy. If
even I might crinkle one of those $200 air masks onto the plane and be in my own little bubble for 11 hours if we have to go through that.
I will be flying a plane in 2 weeks' time, and I'm intrigued to see how it goes.
Okay, are they gonna make you get the test? Because I think that's what they do here.
It's a nationwide flight, so it's internal in Japan. It's from Osaka to Hokkaido. So,
oh, nice.
I'm going up to Sapporo for a little bit.
I fucking loved Sapporo. That was one of the best days of my life.
So I've never been, so I'm excited to go. But obviously the internal flights in Japan are so cheap right now. Just like it's going to cost me what, like $40 to just fly up and back to Hokkaido.
No
so
way.
Like, why the hell would I not? And even better is I'm going for 4 days, right? 4 days, and I'm staying in an Airbnb, and the government is giving everybody $80 off for this go-to campaign here in Japan, like to encourage people to start, you know, going back and
stimulate the
economy a little bit and stuff.
Yeah,
Obviously, place to not go is Tokyo. So if you're in Japan, don't go to Tokyo because that's the only place that really is a concern.
That's fine. There's a lot to do in Japan besides Tokyo.
We weren't planning on going there. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was so cheap anyway. It was like $200 for like 4 nights. It's now $110 split between 3 people. So it cost me like $30 for 4 nights.
So what are you gonna wear on the plane? What's your plan? Your COVID prevention plan?
It is probably a waterproof jacket, a coat, and some sweatpants that maybe throw away after being on the plane.
What are you gonna have on your face?
I'm wearing a mask, of course. I think you have
You're
to.
not gonna do the bubble. You're not gonna have a fish tank astronaut.
Oh, like a
bubble.
plastic bag with holes cut through the eyes, maybe.
Paper bag
You
with
get through the
holes.
eyes too, man.
Yeah. Well, so you have to wear a mask. Second is, I don't think you have to be tested because you're flying in between, nationwide, nationally. It's gonna suck if I have to. It doesn't say anything about that, but fair play, have to do it. When I booked it, and I looked at the seats on the plane, there's nobody on the plane. It's like 10 people. There's like 10.
Holy shit.
The whole plane's empty. So
you might be able to socially distance even on an airplane.
So yeah, I'll just be able to have a whole row to myself. It's only an hour and a half flight. I'm just gonna have a whole row to myself, baby.
I hope it works out.
And yeah, gonna then go eat some lamb.
Are the ski slopes going to be open in Hokkaido when you go?
So I don't think it's going to be snowing. I mean, Hokkaido is going to be cold, but I don't think it's that cold.
They could have the snow machines on, just for the ski slopes.
They might do. I'm not planning on going. So I have two objectives, right? So I haven't been on a holiday for a while, of course, but I've never been to Sapporo either. Two things I'm going to do for sure are, one, eat lamb, because the Genghis Khan, as it's known in Japan, famous lamb.
Yes, agreed.
Going to do that. So I'm going to eat that. Secondly, is I'm going to the Sapporo Beer Museum, and I'm going to drink beer in a museum all day.
I did not get to do the
good.
beer museum, but I did get to do the Genghis Khan lamb, which was at a restaurant at the beer museum. It just happened to be closed when we arrived. But yeah, that you got it. You're going to be good.
I'm going to have a wonderful time, I think. I'm excited.
Go to the Ainu Museum too, if you can squeeze it.
Ooh, some that's the thing I read about Sapporo is until 1860, literally 7 people lived on the whole island. And that was it.
Wow.
And then it was the undocumented tribes of the Ainu and stuff like that. So it's a fairly new city.
Yeah, if you want to learn about Imperial Japan being even bigger dicks than you might have known before, take a visit to the Ainu Museum.
Well, I'm excited to go. So I'm interested. I'll report back after my arduous journey. What flying during COVID times, what even going to the airport is going to be like during COVID times.
I am interested. I maybe you'll see someone in a bubble.
Maybe.
Someone wearing those $200 air bubbles. Do we got games to talk about? We're 35 minutes
we
in,
do.
and we just did
Games?
small talk.
We do.
Yeah.
We've missed each
Um,
other. We're catching up. Matt's finished 8 games.
I'm gonna pick 2.
2 of the 8.
2 of the 8. 2 that I
He
finished.
literally did it. He just deleted games off our docket. He's played so many.
Don't shame me. There's a theme here. You know when you're in that mode where you just kind of need that perfect media to kind of calm you, kind of soothe you over.
God, yes.
When shit's just kind of not bad, just kind of shit, just little, you just Mushishi is like that media. I would puff a little something special and then just watch an episode. Now this is the dub, because Travis Willingham is the guy who plays Mushi, and
it's an anime.
No, it's not Mushi. Yeah, it's anime.
So we're still not even talking about games.
Oh, we're talking about Mushishi the anime. Oh, damn. I was Googling it wait, there's a game Mushishi?
Plays the main character, which is the guy from Critical Role. I didn't know that, but this was years ago. He sounds completely different.
See, I've seen this anime years ago, but I only watched the
Yeah.
Japanese version, so I haven't heard the English dub.
It fucking holds up, man. The art,
It's a
the
lovely,
music,
lovely show.
it's a lovely show. It is so easygoing. It is probably one of my favorites now. It was just perfect. Every episode was just this little I don't know, like this little story of something magical that was going on with the Mushi, and they explain it, he solves it in a weird way, and on to the next episode, just wandering from village to village, and just the atmosphere it was perfect. And I was just go to sleep right after. Just, it was perfect way to end the night. It sucks that the second season does not have the same dub. And when I know people who love the sub are gonna hate this, but when I heard the dude's voice in Japanese, I was like, God, this doesn't even sound like the same person. Like his tone of voice, everything is different. Everything is different in Japanese.
He's very softly spoken in Japanese.
And it's rough. Like it didn't seem like the same person at all.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't seem like the same person.
Well, that's weird because to me, the way he looks with his like white hair covering his eye, he looks very soft. He looks very kind of
and in the dub,
like, oh, I just turned up into town. How you doing?
That's how it was given off that way. But in the sub, he almost was a dick on the first episode of the season 2. I was just like, he's not a dick.
Oh, so it's Travis Willing,
yes,
the big muscular guy from Critical Role.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That is different.
Yeah, it's definitely different. It's completely different voice, completely different vibe. It's not like One Piece where it's basically the same thing. You could interchange them. Well, almost. This one is completely different. I would say it's a good series. Definitely try that out. Definitely.
I watched it when I was in university, so maybe a year or so after it came out, and it was the most relaxing.
It is.
It's very relaxing, very peaceful. It's basically kind of about bugs, Mushi, but like supernatural ones.
Supernatural bugs. That's
bugs, essentially. It. He just walks through forests. That's all I remember really about the show. He just walks through forests, going from town to town,
pretty much
talking about bugs and stuff.
You're not wrong. he just comes up the forest and just talks to people like, "Hey, you need help?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." And then he helps them, and then he goes back into the forest.
Is this bug bothering you, sir? Yes. All right, I'll help you out.
He's definitely smoking weed. Like is not a cigarette. It's absolutely not a cigarette. He's just too easygoing. But there's 2 games I beat. All right.
So you cheated. So you said you were going to talk about 2 games, but 3 topics.
Oh, what are you talking?
As Mushishi doesn't count.
Well, no,
So,
it doesn't count. What are you talking about?
Did you beat all 8 games in 2 weeks? Or?
All right. I'll be quick with Night in the Woods. I wanted to play it ever since you guys told me the backstory.
Oh, so that's what this is in reference to, because it's written as Night in Your Dad. And I was like, what kind of visual novel have you been playing?
And I wanted to keep the suspense. I didn't know if I was going to play it yet. It was all on Xbox Pass. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'll play it. I wanted to keep the wholesomeness going. But that game is not wholesome-ish. It's wholesome-ish.
Really?
That's
it reminded me of some old. It is sad. It is sad, but it did like activate nostalgia in me. It reminded me a lot of high school friends who never really moved out of town.
Yeah.
I
definitely enjoyed the game. When I look back on it, it just makes me. I don't have like, oh yeah, like that was a great game. It's more like it made me think about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that was
contemplative.
That was the game. That was the.
Yeah, it's really resonated with people, but I think if you don't have the problems that it addresses, it's not going to resonate with you as hard.
It really forces you to do some really shitty things. It made me feel very uncomfortable in some ways. I was just like, I would never do this ever. And you're forced to do it, and it's just like, damn, that sucked. But I liked it because of that.
Right.
I think the way they did it, they definitely They definitely nailed it. They definitely nailed it.
It's a very honest and thoughtful portrayal of what would strike the rest of us as kind of assholey behavior.
Yes. She's not really an asshole. It's just, that's just kind of her character, the way she is, because of some issues. But I don't want to spoil anything. But I was about to say Night in Your Dad. Night in the Woods.
Night in Your Dad.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I really want to talk about Ikenfell.
I'm super interested to hear about Ikenfell.
This is one of my favorite games of the year.
Wow.
I absolutely love this game.
Holy shit. Okay.
It is
cool.
exactly what I needed at the time. It's just wholesome and fucking gay. Like, it's just good. It's just good. Like, yeah, man. You're going to see a lot of things that, I don't know what you're going to see first. Like, for me, I just saw it on Xbox and I just played it.
I've been following it for a while because I'm interested in the pixel art and the game development side of it. Like, that's where I'm coming from. I've never really had the inkling to want to play it, but it's one of those games that I keep looking at for the game development stuff to try and learn. But now it's on Game Pass. I've just literally downloaded it right now, so I'm going to give it a try.
It seems you're a lot more complimentary of it than the reviews. It's hovering at a 71 on Metacritic, but it's one of your favorites of the year?
Yes. Okay, so I think I remember, like, I was like looking up something to do with like the cat doors because I couldn't figure out how to open the cat doors. And I did see like people complaining about the timing. So the way the system is, it's kind of like Mega Man Battle Network.
So it's a mat game.
It's a mat game.
Oh, this sounds awesome.
Yeah. So finally a game that does a twist on it where you have only 3 lanes, but a long, it's kind of like spread out with about like 12 spaces, and you start at each end and you can move around like a strategy game on these spaces. So a 12x3, let's say, right? And your abilities go on these tiles, right? And you don't have any MP or anything like that. It's all witchcraft crap. It's all mage stuff. So, you have to use strategy according to that. And there's a lot of, for each spell, there is a timing that you have to do with it according to like graphics and sound. It's a rhythm that you have to get down. So for instance, there's like an ability where there's a circle in the middle of the screen and then a wave comes past and you're supposed to click the circle once the wave perfectly bumps the circle in the middle. And it bounces, and as soon as it bounces is when you're supposed to click A or X or whatever the button is. It's hard. You can't just turn your brain off. Like, it's not a Final Fantasy game. You just turn your brain off and you just play the fucking game, and and that's it. And I think that's what people want, or maybe reviewers. Reviewers, they fucking play games all the time. They're tired. They just want to sit back and just fucking let the game play for them. It's not the game for them. This is something you have to like pay attention to at each battle for even protection spells, all that. But what really gets you is the music. There's a couple songs in there. Themes for certain characters, which are fucking good, and the characters are great. I mean, fucking great. It's too easy to love them. It's too easy. Way too easy.
Okay.
I mean, it's not the reason I played it because I didn't even know, but if you like, I guess like inclusive games, that have like gay characters and other types of characters and stuff like that, then this game is definitely like probably the best example you have right now as far as like nailing everything. Something that's not that it's like in your face type stuff. It's just kind of like the world that it's in, So I think it's good. I That's all I'm gonna say. I know we're like past 40 minutes and shit. It's a fucking good ass game. All the way from beginning to end.
I'm kind of glad. Yeah, it looked really good and stuff. I don't know why I didn't really just want to. I didn't want to play it. I just was interested in the development. But now it's on Game Pass. Wow, the beauty of Game Pass.
Basically free.
Basically free. Minus
it's basically
that
free.
15.
When you say basically free, you're doing their marketing for them, which is probably also easy to do on a platform listened by tens of thousands of people at a time. But anyways,
hey, this is part of the next generation. I mean,
it
just
definitely
switching
is.
on your Xbox and seeing what's on there, and you're like, that game that I was kind of intrigued in. Nah, I can just download it.
Didn't it go up like it's like a 20 million subscribers right now or some shit like that? What was the numbers?
Price is going up too.
Yeah, something stupid.
Well, yeah. I mean, can you imagine?
God, I can't believe it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks today.
Speaking of the next generation being about popping on your subscription service and getting stuff piped through the internet in your face, I took up an offer that Google Stadia is doing and tried that out for the first time on their Immortals Fenyx Rising demo, which is a real case of irony.
You didn't do this for Ask Creed?
I did. That's the irony, is that when Google was not named Stadia, when Google's game streaming service was in open beta, it was Assassin's Creed Odyssey that they were giving out a free demo of. And now, two and a half years later, I'm taking the plunge again with the free demo for a quite similar game that is delivered through a quite similar service. Fine. The Stadia service is fine. You're clearly playing something that is an inferior experience to a console. The video footage is grainy and blurry, and your controls always feel a little thick and muddy. It doesn't. Whatever they were streaming to me did not look like the 1440p they were claiming, because of compression artifacts, more or less bringing it down to something that I guess would look as sharp and clear as even a 1080p image. But for the price of free and for a demo, like, this is the kind of case where I think streaming is a lot more of an easier pill to swallow. And the game itself is actually better than I was expecting. It's the writing, I think, that primarily attracted me. It was a lot more of a comedy than I was expecting. The demo situation is a custom-built little set of islands that they have made for the demo, and the story has Zeus and Prometheus arguing over historical accuracy while you fill out their little story. The art style is totally Breath of the Wild inspired. It's clear as day, but it does look better, like blown up on your full screen when you can pan the camera to some interesting spots than the trailers might be giving it credit for. The combat is also more interesting than the trailers might be giving it credit for. You have some like uppercut moves that get you doing Devil May Cry style air juggling moves. The environment in Breath of the Wild style is very interactive as well. You can pick up a lot of objects in the scenery, throw them at enemies, toss them over cliffs and whatnot. Yeah, so I mean, if a mashup of Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Breath of the Wild sounds like your jam, it seems like they kind of hit the target there.
Wow,
good, actually.
They've actually pulled it off. Wow,
really good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the complaints you'll see in the comments are regards to the bad name and how generic of a concept it is to begin with, and I mean, it's guilty as charged on all accounts. Let's consider it Genshin Impact for George. Like super duper derivative inspired, but still like nailing those respective goals.
Yeah, that's about right. Because Genshin Impact it's not necessarily a bad game, Liam. Just kind of just
didn't say it was bad. Didn't say it was bad.
There, it's just there. It's just there. It's more than a clone.
Didn't say it was bad.
But this does look better. This does look completely better, though.
I have no interest in Genshin Impact, but if I'm going to play like a derivative copycat Breath of the Wild style experience, I'll go to the ancient Greek themed one.
I just can't wait till George comes back next week and he's like, Genshin Impact, man, I've spent too much money trying to get those waifus.
No, it's gonna be Hunt Showdown.
He's gonna come back
We
and
all
he's
fucking know it.
No, I know what's gonna happen. I can already forecast the next 2 episodes are gonna be George telling me how much he loves it and how much better it is than Breath of the Wild, and me arguing with him about how he's wrong. So look forward to that from whenever the hell this game comes out.
Wait, Mortals or Genshin?
Mortals. Genshin's.
Oh, okay.
For what it's worth, it's a very differently designed level design. It's not or at least the demo islands were not a big giant open world. They were an archipelago of islands that are compressed. And you can see it in any screenshot of the game. You're not going to see a screenshot of a big wide open field like in Breath of the Wild. You'll see screenshots with points of interest all over the frame. It's impossible not to keep more than a few in view of the camera at once.
It's
but
not out yet. It's not out yet.
The demo is.
Oh,
It's got an extremely similar climbing system where you can climb any surface straight from the get-go. There's even like a cooking system in there too, where you can quaff stamina potions when your stamina meter's about to run out and spam them on your way up to the highest point in the game as soon as you load it up.
Copying is real, man. I don't know how to feel about it. It's just so... How am I supposed to feel about the copying? Like, I feel like it's getting more blatant, right?
It is pretty blatant, yeah.
Because, like, it's the same thing when I was playing Ori, the second version. It just felt like Hollow Knight. And I was just like, I wanted to play Ori, not Hollow Knight. Not that it was a bad game.
In that instance, you've already got an identity for the game, right? You're like, oh, well, that was already good. You don't need to do that. When you're making a blank slate and you're looking at what the landscape of what the most highest received games have been in the past couple of years, a lot of people, if they're making action open worlds for the next 10 years or so, are going to be like, well, Breath of the Wild is one of the highest rated games of all time. What does that do? Big open world. Can climb.
I just find that so boring to me. I just find it so boring. I don't know, but again, I am not a creative director.
I mean, it's weird because Breath of the Wild's cooking isn't very good.
They call it crafting, but
I do not hold many jobs in my hand about the studio. You know, I don't own a studio and have to pay rent and pay people's salaries. Okay, so I don't
That's
know.
True. It's always tough when you have to balance that. But it looks like even though they've copied those things and stuff like that,
real.
even though they've copied George seems impressed. So maybe it strikes the good balance.
They very clearly decided to make an extremely safe investment.
Yeah, I mean, it looks so safe because it looks good, to be honest. Like, I might give this a try, but it does look like a mod.
You're not wrong.
Like a really good HD mod, you know?
But for the hoops of jumping through to get Stadia set up, the demo is worth the try. It's a timed thing. It's gonna go away in a few days, but
are you gonna stick with the old Stadia?
No.
Stadia.
If I play this game for real, I am not gonna play the Stadia version. I might play more demos on Stadia, but
is it Stadia or Stadia?
Stadia. Like Stadium.
Stadia sounds so much better, but if it's
Stadia, what sounds better is Gods and Monsters.
That does sound better. That is a better name for
okay,
sure.
They decided to take a creative risk with the name. That was not a safe investment when they changed the name.
Oh, that's right. That's what I was like. It looks so familiar. I thought there was another game looking like this. It was Gods and Monsters.
This was Gods and Monsters, and that is
the
more interesting
Fenyx
name.
Rising. God.
Yeah.
So they're implying there's going to be an Immortals IP and franchise and series, and don't know how safe of an investment bet that may be.
Gods and Monsters 2.
Speaking of safe bets, transitioning away from copycats and safe bets to pretty much a safe bet, but one that I can get on board with. I played Discroom, Devolver's new game.
Mm-hmm.
The hot indie darling of the month.
Yeah, I should say JW and the team that made Minutes new game.
Oh, so it's also a little like mini. Oh wait, no, it can't be. It's $15.
It's that's a different issue that we should talk about one day. But it's pretty safe because it is a small game with a very addictive core loop that is expanded upon a bit in unique ways, but is nothing more than you imagine it to be, which is thrown in a room full of spinning death discs and you just run around avoiding them on a timer. And then you hop between different rooms doing different running around avoiding discs with different powers. And then you hop around doing different running around avoiding discs and trying to complete objectives whilst not being sliced into multiple meaty pieces. That's it.
Is your version with the guy having is it a pizza delivery guy who's having dreams about pizzas attacking him because that's all he does is just work his job, and he's having nightmares of having pizza?
So okay, yeah. So you're referencing. Oh, I get it. Right.
Yeah,
I was confused. I thought somebody copied my idea. No. Okay. Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, for some clarity to that context, is that Discroom came out, and one of the not the big things, but one of the cool things that they've done is something I've not seen before, which is they did a game jam associated with their launch. And they've been running the Discroom game jam because, in quite fairness, making a Discroom game is really fucking easy, right? Yeah. It's just a room with spinning discs you run around from. So Game Maker, Unity, whatever, you can do this pretty much in 10 minutes. So one of the unique things they've done as PR marketing for this is to make a game jam around this, and you can win a bunch of prizes, etc. You win like the vinyl for the soundtrack, which is like an actual saw blade, and it looks really cool. And just because I played the game, well, I actually started before the game came out, but because I was playing the game, I thought I'd give it a shot and just enter the jam and, waste my spare time as I do anyway, making games. And I was telling Matt and George before that I made a pizza rooms version where there's loads of spinning pizzas. And no, the actual, it'll be out probably by the time this episode comes out anyway, because the jam ends. But in my version of Discroom, you have to run around avoiding death pizzas while laying down pizza boxes, and then you catch the pizza in the pizza box. And then every room has like a locked door, and you have to collect a certain amount of pizzas before the door opens and lets you in the next room. So a little different to the nightmarish. But if you touch the pizza, then you get shredded into 1,000 pieces.
Toppings.
But yeah,
toppings. Oh yes.
Oh my god, that is good.
That's good.
How are you not a game designer?
Yeah. See. Dad and Son's Game Inc.
Gaming corporate. Bring back
Dad Games. Dad Den.
Dad Den.
Oh my god, that was a thing.
Yeah,
that was a
thing.
fucking thing, wasn't it?
We made hundreds of games under our own corporate logo.
Oh my god.
But it goes to show with Discroom, like, it is exactly what you watch the trailer and you're like, wow, that looks interesting. And then you play it and you're like, wow, this is exactly what was shown in the trailer. And it is a safe bet. And I commend them because they came out and they were like, and this is kind of why I chose pizzas, is they said it's like they wanted to make the margarita pizza of video games. Safe, but delicious. Can't go wrong. So they just made a short, I think it's a 1-year project. And they just like, hey, we're going to put you in a bunch of rooms and you just have to avoid some discs. Soundtrack's really good. Art looks really nice. It runs really well. And it's good fun. But
that's a 1-year game?
It's probably about 8 months. They originally made like a humble original prototype version of it like 5 years ago. So it's existed for a while. But you could make this game in a year. Like, hands down. No problem.
Oh, okay. It seems shorter. It seems like a shorter time for a team to make a game that small. Because it's just rooms, right?
No, it's everything that comes with it. Like the actual production
music.
cycle is obviously probably like maybe 6 months.
Part of
like,
it.
But thinking of the initial conception of the idea, getting the art, iterating on what the presentation looks like. There's a lot of finer details that go into game development. That is just outside of the direct, I designed the level kind of feel.
Like, it's not actually like, okay, we're going to start making this room right now.
Yeah, you wake up one day and you're like...
And then 8 months later,
yeah. It's not like that. It's like, I have this idea. Let's prototype this. And then, that's pretty fun. But how do we make it more interesting? I have an idea. Let's not do that. And let's just keep doing what we're doing. But it is fun and it is addictive. Each room, you last 10 to 30 seconds on average, and then you just hit restart. It's weird because the one thing that I've been looking at while trying to make a game jam version of it is just how the feel of running around in Discroom feels really nice. Like the responsiveness of the character, and trying to emulate that in my vision, it's really tough. You're not just moving left and right, up and down, etc., etc. There's friction, and then, turning on a dime. How fast can you avoid a disc? Do you feel like you're getting cheated because the controls are not responsive? And it's interesting in that kind of nerdy game design way. But as a long form video game, you pay $15 for, which, understandably from a consumer standpoint is maybe not the greatest. I think a lot of people are going to have a great time with it. But it is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a game about discs in a room. And you navigate between different rooms, trying to finish it. Some rooms have missions, objectives that you need to complete, but they're purposely obscure. So you're just running around trying different things. A lot of the game is about dying on purpose to try and trigger something, which is interesting, but it's not interesting in the way I think the developers tried. They're trying to make it maybe be something a bit more than it actually is. The game is about death and the repetitive cycle of trying to figure things out. But it feels more of a beating your head against a wall type of thing where you just, you keep going until you figure something out. It's not exactly, it doesn't feel like the most puzzle, if I throw my body in this kind of position, maybe it doesn't feel like that. It's just okay, disc, hit me now, and then try and trigger something. It feels nice to play. The powers are interesting. The room design is interesting. There's a couple of different rooms that have really unique things in them, but don't expect anything more than what it is. Watch a trailer, look at it, and if you like the trailer, you'll like the game. But if you think it's anything more than that, it really isn't.
Ouch.
Thanks for coming to my disc talk. Play Pizza Rooms whenever the hell I finish it.
Pizza Rooms.
Pizza Rooms. Collect pizzas.
In the land of Hyrule, the wind echoes a legend. A legend that tells of a boy who became a man. He traveled to the ends of the earth, challenging the forces of nature, testing the limits of his will, all to fulfill his destiny, which is, above all else, to save me.
The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. Rated E for everyone.
So the third most popular Twitch stream of all time was done by two U.S. congresswomen, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar. They have revealed how much better their gaming PCs are than the rest of us. This thing got 439,000 viewers, making it the third highest viewed single Twitch stream ever. Like this is numbers comparable to Ninja playing Fortnite with Drake and Travis Scott. It was a effort intended to drive viewers to go vote, but the content of the stream itself was kept fairly light on the politics, and a lot of the reception was
yeah, that was a surprise, actually, I must say. I thought it was going to be more of that than it was Among Us, and it was absolutely not that. It was an Among Us stream with sometimes people saying go vote.
It was them having a fun time playing video games like normal people, and apparently that is the takeaway that a lot of people got from it, was how surprised they were to see Congress people act like normal human beings, which I think we're going to get a huge dose of in the future as more and more political candidates are going to be coming from generations where they play games in their free time.
Yeah. It would make them seem more human.
Like, obviously, AOC is kind of a bit
Yeah.
different. She's
Bit
like a bit of a
different, yeah.
mythological creature, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't like her, you hate her, is like the weird feeling that people have about her. Like, she's too progressive. Oh no, super scary.
And boy, do they, as our follow-up story will address.
A normal 2020 person who cares about human beings who was a bar lady 3 years ago. Ooh, scary.
Which isn't that what they wanted? What do they want anyways?
Yeah, exactly, right? That's the thing. Oh, and lo and behold, she knows exactly what somebody of her age, how to reach those people. And like most people will have voted who are of that age anyway and stuff like that. But a friend of mine pointed out, like, there is going to be somebody, and I know it's like hyperbole, but there's going to be somebody somewhere who is like a 14 or 15-year-old who watches Twitch religiously, who is like one of those kids who's super into Twitch, who watched that and is like, oh, who is that? Politics. I wonder what's that all about. And then they read it and they get into it. And then it's because of like this new way of reaching people. Like, if she did it more often and really like integrated it into being a part of who she is and with the politics, that could be incredibly powerful stuff.
God, we're the same age. Holy shit.
Yeah, she is 31. She is of the right age to be doing it. It's clear that like she knows what she's doing. She's good at it. And yeah, the thought of turning like Q&A sessions on Twitch, like live with the digital audience, rather than a town home just with crusty old people who will be showing up for that stuff. Did I say town home? I meant town hall. Is actually a pretty bright vision of the future. As bleak as everything's looking, I kind of like the idea of a more digital democracy where the seats in the House are not constrained by the physical building sizes, and representatives can take people's questions live online to right to their face. But yeah, it's also like absolutely positively clearly evident that she's watched streams before and knew how to keep the audience entertained. And there's a bunch of fun, cute quips of her not believing she has to kill Pokimane. She got imposter on the first,
yeah,
like right off the bat in the first round, and did a pretty good job of everything. Like, I think everyone is genuinely impressed that these 30-year-old congresswomen actually know how to play video games. And in retrospect, we really shouldn't be.
Well, she's known for playing League of Legends. Like, she's into League of Legends. She got into like Silver 2 or something at one point. She tweeted about it.
Which is probably better than me, to be honest.
But you know, with this, it was like a quick turnaround type thing, and obviously she's a public spokesperson, so she's obviously not bad at talking to people anyway. But the way she got into the game and was learning, and you were watching in real time how she's learning to play and how she's trying to get better, and she's deducing who is the imposter and all that kind. It was really fun to watch. It was a good time. I don't know much about the streamers she was with, apart from like
I just had a mental image of what the negative campaign ads would look like. If you can't trust this woman to save your spaceship from the imposters, how can you trust her with the seat of the New York City Garbage Council?
Oh my God, that's the future, isn't it? You know how Trump has a go about Joe Biden and his weakness. Like, it would show like a maybe Joe Biden like throwing a ball and he looks really weak or something. You can imagine like 10 years time, it's like somebody nailing a headshot in Fortnite and be like, this is what your president can do.
Joe Biden has a KD ratio of less than 1.0 on Hunt Showdown. Is this the kind of man you can trust in control of our country?
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
Yes, and I fucking love imagining it, and I kind of want to make a video now.
I would just stop. That would be the day I stop watching news and being aware of what's going on in my country.
Oh man,
just give up altogether. That's the last video I watch.
Researching your political opponent's KD ratio is going to be the future of politics, kids.
Like, we're gonna have like gamer profiles on our Facebook.
The negative campaign ads in response to this have already started in the form of a hacker making the biggest, hugest hack Among Us has ever faced. Thousands, potentially tens of thousands of players have had their accounts hacked to force them to spam some messages promoting the hacker's YouTube and Discord channel. Which I can't believe is a thing. And of fucking course, it's a Trump supporter who has to throw in like Trump 2020 at the end of the hacked messages.
Trying.
I can't get over that the hacker has like these public outlets on YouTube and Discord that those services are not taking down. Maybe they have. Or maybe it's just of the nature of hacking itself to keep making dummy accounts as they get taken down. Yeah, you remember like when you were watching Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex and the hacker like hacks into the TV screen in the city square and they're a mysterious enigma person who you can't like go personally look up and chat with and interview? Kotaku got an interview with the hacker. Hacker says, I was curious to see what would happen, and personally I found it funny. The anger and hatred is the part that makes it funny. If you care about a game and are willing to go spam dislike some random dude on the internet because you can't play it for 3 minutes, it's stupid. Among Us may be a small developer team, but that's not my fault. The game is at a scale bigger than most AAA games. There's nothing stopping them from getting more developers, so it's the 3 people reasoning means nothing to me, end quote, said hacker to Kotaku.
Fuck you.
How does that make you feel, Liam? I knew it.
Fuck you fucking
right?
twat. Fuck off.
Wow.
I know. Haha. I'm purposely going to make somebody's morning and day and possibly week or month really difficult because I'm an obnoxious twat.
And then at the end, vote Trump 2020.
And then we get all hacked.
Like, what point are you proving? Yes, of course, anybody with a calculator can try and guess how much Inner Sloth have made thanks to Among Us' popularity. But that is not necessary. What are you trying to prove? Like, the anger and hatred is the part that makes it funny. Cool, great, dude. 2020 has had enough of that fucking nonsense. We don't need that shit.
Does this person realize just how, like, much negative effects this has on their cause, too?
Yeah.
Like I was reading some comments and watching some streams where it happens, because nowadays if someone's playing Among Us with anything to do with Trump in their tag, they are the first person to get ejected.
Yeah. I mean, people like
It's
to
just
make
so
fun of the US,
depressing.
right? The dumb fat fucks, right? That's what they call Americans.
Oh yeah, that's what happened in Borat too. Is a lot of play up on those stereotypes.
Like, oh, you guys like Trump. You guys are like, okay. No, we don't. We don't.
Yeah, he kind of lost the popular vote by a margin of 3 million in an election with historically low voter turnout. And we're about to have one with historically high voter turnout. So
I doubt any conservatives, or should I say Trump supporters, listen to the show at this point. You know, I'm
at
black.
this point,
I'm black, so I don't know. If you follow Trump, I mean, it's not a far assumption to think that you might be racist, but you know, because he says some really fucked up shit. But I mean, it could be because you have a lot of money as well. Because I've seen rich people at work, you know, try to defend Trump and within earshot, and I'm like, really? And I turn to my friend like, we really talking about politics right now? We really talking about politics? I'm trying to focus on work, and we talking about how Trump is okay. Like, oh, he did a good job. Okay, guy with money. But yeah, like, no, most of us don't fucking.
Yeah, mathematically speaking, it's statistically true that most of us did not
vote for him.
Yeah, this is the second time in our lifetimes that the people did not decide the president. Anyways.
Yeah, I'm starting to fucking get like George now. I need to stop watching press conferences.
Hell yeah, that's what we need this year.
I hate to give it to you, but I got more depressing news about
Yay.
the Oculus Quest 2
Excellent.
and its Facebook requirements. The product has launched to more positive reviews than the first round,
I told you we did that story too early.
but it's also launched to a shitload of people having problems with this Facebook account requirement stuff. Starting with the U.S. House of Representatives beginning antitrust legislation against tech giants that includes bits about how Facebook is conditioning access to a product or service in which a firm has market power to the use of a separate product or service, and that is anti-competitive. That part of the U.S. House's 450-page report on antitrust legislation is potentially referring to how Facebook acquired Oculus VR and started merging the Oculus account and store services over to the Facebook ones. Customers of older headsets can still keep their old accounts separate from Facebook, but new customers of any of the Oculus headsets are now required to tie it to a Facebook account. And a lot of people who are making Facebook accounts for the first time just for this stuff are having them get flagged as suspicious and receiving bans. This ends up bricking the device, making it unable to be utilized at all, including as a PC VR headset that you hook up with the link.
Holy shit. What?
So apparently there's something suspicious about making a new Facebook account in 2020. If you previously deleted one or want to make a dummy account for this one, you're potentially going to get flagged as suspicious.
You can't even make a dummy account.
One user had their account flagged after running into a scammer on Facebook Marketplace. And also, if you delete your Facebook account, you're also going to be deleting your game library.
I guess as soon as I'll wait for Valve to release inside out tracking, and I'll buy that one, because before I didn't care. Now you're telling me deleting libraries and all this shit. I thought I was going to be able to make another account. I don't really want it.
I thought that I could get away with buying an old Oculus Quest, but apparently not either. That's not a thing.
Really? So I have to do it on my Oculus. Shit.
It's interesting, right? Like, you buy games through PlayStation, you buy games through Valve, you buy games through Microsoft, etc., and it's the same story, right? You delete your account or whatever, like, then your games go with it, your posters go with it. It is interesting how, because this is specifically Facebook, people are very aware, and I feel like it's a good thing.
Yes, because Facebook is a very different service that one would have very different reasons for wanting to delete.
But it goes to show that how much data you're already giving away to certain companies, that one day if they turn around and start doing some shady shit, like how much of that stuff you've already given away and how much you've already tied to those accounts. It's kind of maybe a bit of a warning.
I don't like it at all. I don't even like how much the index is tied to Steam, to be honest. Like, I've had problems with Steam updates making the Steam VR middleware flip out and require me to restart the hardware. Like, I really was hoping that VR headsets would be as simple and easy as plugging a monitor into your computer.
It should be, but I guess you have to get like the Windows. What do you call those? Windows mixed reality?
Windows mixed reality. Honestly, at this point, I think that might be the good, like, middle class recommendation. I have heard very little gripes from my internet friends who have WMR headsets.
Yeah, from what I understand, you don't need to hook it up to anything because it's Windows. So you got a Windows computer, you're good to go.
You sometimes may have to do some compatibility hacks to get Oculus exclusives working, but you got to do that with the Valve headset too.
Yeah.
But I do worry that if like Steam goes away in the future, my index might be not as useful as it
if
should
Steam
be.
goes away, it'll be an end of an era. Something would have to be there to replace it, or something big would have to change. There's no way it's just gonna disappear one day. That'd be crazy.
I mean, it might be a couple year long process, but we've seen as many companies fade away from a couple years of corporate incompetence. I'm also like reminded of telltale in weird ways of how like a fairly promising story can just turn sour after 2 bad years.
Facebook have never really covered themselves in glory, but yeah.
If Facebook faces government regulation trying to break them up into smaller companies, I think a good place to start might be with all their VR acquisitions. Because that might be happening. That might be happening within the next decade as this antitrust legislation gaining ground. And honestly, I'd be all for it. The world has gotten worse since Facebook became popular.
We do actually have a listener who works for Facebook who, if everything goes to hell and Facebook are going to dominate the world, maybe he can just let us know in advance as a favor to his dad.
Yeah, please do.
That would be nice.
I wonder what a Facebook health insurance program would look like.
You have to watch a specific amount of ads every day. You have
They
to
have
keep...
it when they're getting their food at the food court. Yeah.
They don't verify if the food is safe.
Yeah, you're forced to communicate with your racist uncle at least 3 times a day.
They don't verify if your doctor's degree is real.
Yeah.
They released some mixed messages over whether or not you're allowed to use multiple devices on one account. There was some controversy, negative press floating around for a few days about how you were only allowed to use one device per account. That turned out to not be true because they're straight up contradicting something they released earlier.
Yeah, they're not easy. We have a couple of dev kits in the studio, and making multiple accounts on them and getting people to test them is really difficult because of the account system. But it was the same on the Oculus Quest 1 as well, like the actual Oculus account back then. So I don't think much has changed other than the just more Facebook stuff.
Oh my god.
Well, that's the news.
The moment we fall asleep and we're distracted by something else pops up to try to sneak by. And as soon as we don't pay attention to it, shit got us by the balls,
through.
Man. It's like
Yeah.
we can't fucking relax. And there's too many things to pay attention to in this fucking world for us to like do something about everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty exhausting.
It's exhausting. Like, there's so much to worry about. Obviously, go vote, but
go vote.
Definitely
Please
go vote. But
I can't vote, but you can if you are American and listening to this.
If you're also listening to this, go send us questions.
Yes,
please do.
We'd love to hear.
Send them to our inbox, or if you want them a little more directly in our face, subscribe to our Patreon, get access to our Discord, and post them in the listener question channel.
Intimate.
I got some fun ones. The first from the Patreon is Danny I. They say, from 70s sitcoms to 90s rap. I do admit I edited a really long email down to this. From 70s sitcoms to 90s rap, entertainment mediums ebb and flow with various genres and subgenres hitting their peaks at different times in history. Since this is a video game podcast, I pose to you, what are the best genres respected to their eras of video games? In other words, which genres hit their peak in the NES generation, the PS1, then the PS2, then the Xbox 360, and how about now?
Well, I mean, PS2 was like JRPGs, right?
Platformers, JRPGs and platformers, shooters.
Let's go back to the front. The NES generation. What genre do we think hit its peak in the NES generation?
Platformers.
Yeah, side-scrolling platformers. Mario 3, I still think, is my favorite one of that series. Late-gen NES platformers are some of my favorite shit. Kirby's Adventure on the NES is my favorite Kirby game. SMB3 is my favorite Mario game.
PS1 has been like JRPGs, like 3D games, basically. Like you had like Silent Hill. All those weird games started coming out on PS1.
Yeah,
like,
horror games I don't think have really been the same since the Aughties, because that pixelated aesthetic, like it tingles your imagination. Like you don't know how gross the image of the horror is when it's like kind of pixelated and blocky and low poly. And that's something you can't capture nowadays. Like there's mods that are being made for modern horror games. An Amnesia mod just was released that makes it look like a 1998 game, and people love that shit.
Okay, so we're not talking about what was the most popular genre of the era. We're talking about what genre hit their peak during that time.
What peak? I would say pixel art.
I think there have been great platformers since the NES, but yeah, obviously the NES had quite a domination of platformers.
They missed the SNES, and I want to say like pixel art may never be that good again because it's not as big a business with as many people competing over it.
No, there's some good pixel art.
I was gonna say indie games are carrying the way forward.
But the indie games have some really fucking dope shit.
But as like the normal mainstream games, like the stuff you saw on the Super Nintendo and GBA, especially when a lot of those old artists were going
King
back.
of Fighters.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know, right? Like nut busting type of pixel art. Yeah,
Nut busting, excuse
nut
me.
busting, man.
But that's the thing is King of Fighters 13, the last 2D one before they turned the 3D monstrosity, which was also a pretty good game. But the King of Fighters 13 on the PS3 is one of the best looking sprite-based games I've ever seen in my life. It's glorious.
Probably took them ages, man. Took them ages to do that. Make it super clean like that.
PS1 is definitely JRPGs. I think like you can argue they got a lot more, but you were talking Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 9,
Yeah.
Suikoden. Oh, actually, PS1 is probably also when fighting games were like at their solid peak. Like that era, we're talking like Street Fighter 2, like the Super Turbo game, 3, the Marvel vs. Capcom games. Then on Neo Geo, you obviously had King of Fighters. You had
Marvel vs. Capcom was PS1?
Marvel vs. Capcom was Dreamcast, and then
Right. Okay. That's what I was like. I'm really confused right now. Okay. Dreamcast. Yes.
no, Marvel vs. Capcom was on PS1,
Oh, it was.
and then Capcom vs. Marvel.
Yeah.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was on Dreamcast.
And there was also like a shitload of good SNK fighting games. But are you sure fighting games wouldn't have peaked a decade later when online tournament culture, FGC stuff started popping up, when games started getting specifically made for that? Because fighting games had a lull for a while, but then they came back.
Melee. I mean, now it's died down a bit now, right? Like it used to be like poppin', and then it kind of died down.
Yeah, you just have the big hitters now. But that's the thing. I think PS1, X-Men versus Street Fighter, Marvel versus Superheroes versus Street Fighter. Obviously, you had all of the renditions of Street Fighter. There was a lot of Japanese fighting games coming out then. Is the Neo Geo the same era? It's around about it.
When I think of Garu, Mark of the Wolves, I maybe fighting games did peak with that late mid to late 90s stuff.
Guys, breaking news, by the way, just want to interrupt. That big moon news, surprisingly I'm wearing a NASA hoodie. That big moon news is there is water on the moon.
How did that get there?
Wait, what?
There is water on the moon's surface in the shadows of the moon. Oh my god. Anyway, video games. Sorry.
Why it took us this long to fucking find this out?
Shit's
No idea.
expensive.
But holy shit, there we go.
Yeah, that's neat.
That's fucking impressive. What?
I wonder if there's germs in that water. Anyways,
It's probably a lot.
all
of
right,
things in that
PS2,
water.
PS2 generation. What genres peaked in the PS2 days?
JRPGs.
JRPGs, I would agree.
That was like, I mean, you went to GameStop and you just had things you never heard about just sitting on there on the shelf.
People are still replaying Persona 3 and 4. Like
Yeah.
they're still getting re-releases. You had Rogue Galaxy come out around the same time as Final Fantasy 12.
Rogue Galaxy. Wow, that's a blast in the past.
Xbox 360 is definitely shooters.
Definitely.
Definitely shooters.
We're talking first person shooters, but yeah.
Yeah. You had Gears come out. You had, oh my God, just Halo.
Wait, no, are we talking actually if we're talking PS3 and Xbox, it's like third person action that third
I mean, we had shooters in general. Xbox 360 was like Xbox.
so action games then, like Uncharted, Gears.
I just don't know if I'm as like interested in that genre. Like I think it's kind of interesting how JRPGs had such a peak in the PS2 games, but the whole Japanese game industry kind of went in a downturn for the early years of the next gen, and now we're saying, oh, it's the...
Well, you say they peaked with PS2, but really the golden era of JRPGs was the PS1.
Right. It's just that horror game aesthetic of the PS1 can't be done anymore.
And the Super Nintendo. So JRPGs had a long time in the sun. I mean, obviously there were great JRPGs on the PS2, but when we're talking like the golden era, it's that transition from the Super Nintendo to the PS1.
So JRPGs were great both on the PS1 and the PS2 days. The PS2 days I just don't think has as nostalgic a vibe as like I think the place in our hearts the PS1 horror games might have here. Because the PS1 JRPGs, like that is the trilogy of like everyone's favorite Final Fantasy games. Like 7, 8, and 9 have their fans to this day. That came out around the same time as like Xenogears and Chrono Cross.
Was it Vagrant Story?
Wild Arms. There are so many. FF Tactics, Liam's favorite. That was PS1 era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the point. I think the golden era was then, but yeah.
I guess it's a toss-up between JRPG and horror. I'll give it to horror because I love my pre-rendered tank controls, and that's something that's never coming back.
I think, yeah, horror didn't really transition over into like the PS2 era maybe the same way. I think even though you had... I don't think JRPGs peaked in PS1. They just had their golden era. But horror definitely peaked, I think, with Resident Evil. But even though Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games, but it's not a very good horror game.
A JRPG like Blue Dragon is evocative of how much trouble I think that format had transitioning to the following generation. It took them a while.
Yeah, but at the same time, Lost Odyssey came out, and Lost Odyssey's great.
It still isn't no golden age.
I think as soon as Mass Effect and Dragon Age and a lot of Western RPGs came out, no one wanted to play JRPGs anymore.
Well, specifically on console, that transition from PC to, Western RPGs were basically only a PC thing. Western RPGs then transitioning into the console with like KOTOR and BioWare leading the charge, and then Bethesda.
Gosh.
Yeah, you fucking had Elder Scrolls, like that filled that hole. And JRPGs, you realize the story was kind of just like the same every time.
And I guess like one of the reasons why it doesn't strike me as exciting to be like, oh man, shooters peaked in Xbox 360 years is that shooters kind of became like the default video game itself over those years. Yeah. So going over the list, it's kind of amazing how much that genre evolved. When I Google search for Xbox 360 best shooters, the lineup begins with stuff like Perfect Dark Zero and ends at stuff like Titanfall. Like there's a lot of differences between those two games. Yeah. There's so many different places that this genre went over that generation. That lineup includes stuff like BioShock Infinite, Left 4 Dead, and the Far Cry games, all the Halo games as well. Like you can nail a lot of fundamentally different gameplay and visual styles in this format that it seems kind of broad to think that it might have peaked during that age.
Yeah.
I have a hard time. I want to say that cute, small indie games maybe sort of were at their most fun.
No way.
Middle.
No way.
But they were still fresh. They were new. The novelty was there in a way that we may have like gotten used to at this point.
I disagree.
If Braid and Fez came out nowadays, I don't think they would make as big a splash. If Castle Crashers came out nowadays, it especially wouldn't make as big a splash.
I disagree with that. Like indie games, especially those types of indie games, we still talk about every week. But if you think about the Xbox 360 generation of multiplayer shooter games that like is that like you epitomize with Xbox Live and that sort of thing. We're playing online games more than ever now, but
it is the peak.
That is like already a nostalgia trip for a lot of people because it was such a high. And every November and December was filled with the new Battlefield, the new Call of Duty, like all of those top tier multiplayer shooters and stuff like that.
Everyone had mics. Everyone was talking. The lobbies were toxic as fuck, but like everyone was having a good fucking time. Like that age was so pure.
I admit that. The difference is I'm not nostalgic for that. I don't want toxic lobbies again. I'm so fucking tired of gamer toxicity, and that's what I associate.
It's not the same as it is now. It's completely different. It's completely different. When we used to talk shit on Xbox Live back then, it may be because I'm an old man now and I remember it different. But we weren't necessarily hurtful back then. It was like we talked shit, but like in a way of sportsmanlike, and that was just like kind of part of it, you know. And that it added so much fun. Now no one fucking talks, and if they do talk, it's just like all toxic, all the time, like super like nasty comments. You get racism all the time now. I mean, all the time. Like I might as well mute the mic. It's ridiculous. Back then, it was not like that at all.
That's kind of how I remember Modern Warfare 2, and even Team Fortress 2 to a certain extent kind of became toxic mic spam. I'm just gonna shrivel away.
I guess because PC was different. Because back in the day, I didn't play PC. I played Xbox Live.
I didn't play consoles.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're just talking about what peaked, and I think they peaked because the shooters now are not the same. They are battle royales, and that, you know, like Warzone is the most popular Call of Duty game, and it's not like that. It's a battle royale, right? So I think when we're talking the Battlefields, the Call of Duties, even the third-person action games that you add on top of that, the Gears and everything that came with it, they feel like a product of that era. Like if you make a game like that now, I don't think it would sell that well. So
what do we think is peaking right now?
Battle Royales.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, that's right.
One thing that I wanted to mention that in the Nakey Jake video on Naughty Dog games feeling outdated reminded me of it. Games are a lot less.
Video.
They're a lot less focused on the scripted event stuff than they used to be. Like so much of modern game design is about having sandboxy emergent systems that interact with one another in cool ways, and that seems like a shift that we have all been begging for the past 2 generations towards focusing more on gameplay over graphics. Graphics totally plateaued, and the like cinematic adventure of looking at cool set pieces is not as big a thing as it was in previous gens.
Games like Uncharted, and part of the reason why I don't like The Last of Us 2 very much, like that kind of third-person action combat, very not linear corridor type stuff, but definitely that doesn't tend to be flavor of the month anymore for a lot of people.
Since playing Half-Life Alyx, I've seriously had to have a reckoning with myself over how much I really want Half-Life style campaigns again, because I think I am having a lot more fun with Star Wars Squadrons in terms of like the big VR game of 2020 for me.
Alyx was exhausting, man.
You know, the VR games might have sort of a peak year. If it's going to be niche, if it's not going to catch on in the future, 2020 might be the last big hurrah. We had Half-Life Alyx, we had Star Wars Squadrons.
It's going to catch on. It's not going anywhere.
I know. Okay, yes, fine.
I've been saying this for years, George, and each time you keep spending more money, George.
It's going to catch on. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm praying to George God. So Medal of Honor is going to be coming out soon. There's
yes,
oh yeah, and The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners is something that might have been a 2019 game, but there are a lot of good contenders that have come out within this year or the previous one for like killer app VR stuff. What else we got in there? Population 1 just released to fairly positive press as well.
Population 1.
More people are going to own headsets. They're going to get cheaper. They're going to get smaller. They're going to get easier to wear. And
Walking Dead Saints and Sinners was a 2020 game. So 2020 has had a surprisingly strong lineup of killer app VR stuff that is worth taking the plunge.
Population 1. Oh, this game.
Yeah, it's Fortnite in VR basically.
Yeah.
But just it looks like good, clean fun.
Possibly roguelikes as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, whatever year Cadence of Hyrule came out was probably a good year for roguelikes.
Possibly roguelikes might go away, which
and
might suck for
doesn't
me,
that fold into the focus on emergent sandboxy systems? Like that whole genre is all about that stuff.
Maybe like randomly generated stuff.
I can't wait for Battle Royales to die. I want it to die.
I've had good fun with it.
Yeah, I know. But I mean Hunt Showdown is great. It's just I want something else.
I will admit that one of the reasons why I've been playing so much Hunt Showdown is that I expect it to be less popular in the future. So I wanna get it out of my system now.
Yeah.
Ugo Giant asks, I've been playing Super Mario 64 and recently the remaster of Command & Conquer Red Alert. Back in the day, I considered myself quite good at Mario 64. I remember running through levels with ease and using shortcuts. In Red Alert, I always found the game far too difficult. Halfway through, there would always be some mission where I found myself unprepared. Fast forward a couple decades, and now my experiences have flipped. Mario 64 feels clunky and uncomfortable, like trying to build an IKEA table with only a hammer. For Red Alert, I found the campaign almost laughably easy. Have any of you experienced something similar? Have you gone back to revisit a game from your childhood, only to find your experience of playing has completely flipped?
I definitely am better at Crusader Kings 3 than when I tried to play Mario 64 as well. I'm just old.
Yeah.
Just old.
Those reflexes, man. They get kind of slow.
But your technical knowledge increases.
Yeah.
So as a kid, I had a hard-ass time playing virtually any kind of PC game. And nowadays, I absolutely love being able to go check out stuff that I was not able to get into as much as a kid. TIE Fighter was one of my favorite games as a kid, but I didn't have a real joystick for it. I also would have a hard-ass time getting those like DOS-based sound card setups going to work. And yeah, like a lot of weird old DOS stuff, Elder Scrolls games. Betrayal at Krondor is something I played as a kid that I mean, those old DOS PC games were always built more for adults anyway, but it's a way, way different experience going back to revisit them versus being a kid in the 90s, not knowing how to use a computer very well, much less as more unfriendly as they were back then.
I can't remember a situation where it's been too hard or it feels like clunky. I'm pretty sure it has happened, but I do have a lot of experiences of like me as a kid thinking something was just so like unattainable, and now it's just a lot easier just to kind of go in and do. Like I remember like I could never finish Final Fantasy VII. Like it was just so much. It was just so much.
Oh no.
Yeah.
See, I might be the opposite. Like I had a lot more interest in finishing longer games as a kid than I seem to have now. Like nowadays, I just genuinely, as an adult, don't give a shit about a game's story most of the time. Because most of the time, it's not great. Like I don't give a shit a lot of times about how investing hours upon hours in something that I only halfway care about. And it feels bad, dude. It feels really bad.
I think that's like mostly the only thing not only thing I care about, but almost the only thing I care about. Like if the story is there, like that's why I care about endings so much. I don't like the ending to be shit. Like I want a complete game. I want a complete experience. I want the gameplay to be there, but I mean, if I look at the last few games I've played, you know, like Night of the Woods, I mean, you had Demon Tower, but there's not much gameplay going on in that game. Other than grabbing and stealing stuff. And that's pretty easy. You know, I enjoy story for sure. I think number one.
I think I'm more of a logical thinker than being able to just react. Like when I'm a kid, I just want to run around, do stuff in a game and just press buttons and be happy about it. Now as an adult, I have to pass the information through, think about it, make a decision, and you know, and also going back to old PC games, like that logical processing, you need to think about these things, like strategy games or real-time stuff. It's too much. As a kid, I was unable to do, you know, the attention.
Maybe that's what our listener is facing here, because Mario 64 is a game with famously clunky controls and camera that a lot of new players have a hard time adjusting to.
The camera is shit. I don't think the controls are clunky, but
when you're a kid, you learn faster. Your brain is like younger and stretchier. Your synapses are firing faster. That shit does decay with age. And so like learning an uncomfortable control scheme and a clunky camera is something, I mean, as a kid, you don't even know it's uncomfortable and clunky. Like that's just your frame of reference.
You haven't played the good shit yet. You know, the good shit hasn't come out yet.
It is harder to learn new things as an adult when you have a frame of reference that keeps you held back.
Yeah.
And maybe thinking through strategies is something that comes easier as an adult than a kid. I played Red Alert as a kid, but I got my ass handed to me online every time. And when I looked at a little card that would come in the box of strategies, like, oh, combine your shield bubble generators with the most powerful tanks in the game and use that together, that never occurred to me as a kid. But as a kid, apparently I had enough patience and aptitude to go through a bunch of complicated JRPG stuff I'd never be interested in as an adult.
Yeah.
So maybe it's the audience of the game that they're intended for. Like Mario 64 is definitely intended for younger players than Red Alert.
I mean, there's a reason why we have target audiences. Like, people can try games. They're not necessarily going to be the target audience for it, right? A lot of people think for some reason, like, every game should appeal to them, but that's just not the truth of it. Like, oh, why don't I like this game? I don't know. Maybe just it's not for you. It's like Pokemon. People getting angry about Pokemon. It's like, in reality, Pokemon was made for when you were 8 years old, not 33.
A lot of gamer toxicity and negativity is willingly disregarding the fucking fact.
Yeah.
Oh well. Enjoy what you enjoy. Don't worry about it if you don't.
I haven't thought about Pokemon in so long. You reminded me about that last game. Thank you, Liam.
The last I had fun with.
I'm angry. Toxic.
Don't worry. Be happy.
Yeah, our last question is a Big George one. I am gritting my teeth and smiling and rubbing my palms together as I read Casper's following question. Dad's question, especially with the Patreon. A Discord full of admirers of your work and all that sweet, sweet internet fame. How do you guys feel about parasocial relationships? Do you think there is a certain responsibility on content creators to try to minimize those building up in the first place? Or is it the people's fault alone who lose themselves in their admiration to a content creator to an unhealthy degree? Are there experiences with this you might have already had that you're willing to share?
One-sided relationships?
Parasocial relationships are relationships you have with someone who doesn't even really know about you. It's kind of referring to stuff happening one way through the internet when a character like, let's say, PewDiePie markets themselves as a normal, relatable, everyday gamer kid who's like your friend. But he's really not your friend. He is a performer making a product that you are consuming by having advertisements get hosted on it and by tuning in every day. And I think that, like a lot of entertainment products in the world and things that we consume, it must be done with some certain degree of responsibility. But I also don't want to blame viewers for, especially viewers who may be neurologically atypical, so to speak, for getting too caught up in this stuff. Any kind of product or service being sold is going to have some sort of nefarious implication at some point for some certain portion of the audience. There is no such thing as ethical consumption under capitalism. My feelings on this are complicated and long-winded, and I don't want to dominate the mic. So, what do you guys think?
I mean, I can't really talk about it in the sense that you can. This is something that you have extensive.
I have had many negative experiences and positives too.
I mean, but that's to discredit what we've built with Dad and Sons. And obviously we're not talking about million follower, subscriber nonsense from YouTube and how you have to deal with that kind of life. But that life also comes with the fact that you have a lot of money and probably a lot of people around you for security. But if you're that, especially, I think this is especially important when we talk about female content creators who have stalkers and that kind of some of the nightmare stuff that you can read about these type of parasocial relationships that can happen, especially Twitch streamers, not massive Twitch streamers, but maybe have like 500 people watching or something like that,
including AOC herself.
Can you imagine?
Like there are people obsessed.
You can't even have a boyfriend on your stream.
Yeah, like that is the kind of nonsense we're talking about, right?
Like you lose money if you have a boyfriend on your stream. God. Like it governs your life as a female streamer or content creator or.
Yeah, that kind of thing is what we're talking about here. When I think one of the main things, obviously everybody has it different. Personally, I mean, Matt, you can speak to how it was when you were doing YouTube and stuff, but with Dad and Sons, our audience maybe doesn't fall into this bracket. I don't think
it's a bit different. Yeah.
we have, and it's become very apparent, and I think, we've praised it enough, and we were worried about how creating a Discord would happen because of this.
Mm-hmm.
We're not AOC streaming Among Us to 400,000 people, but we have a great listenership that is sizable for a podcast, especially a video game podcast. Podcasts don't have the greatest one, apart from those who also do YouTube at the same time and then create a knockoff podcast on the side. But we knew that there were going to be people there. Like, we're incredibly grateful for that. But we were worried about what would happen with the Discord and what was going to happen. Who are the type of people who are going to come? What is going to happen? And it's turned out to be like one of the best things we ever did because the community of people in there are wonderful, supportive people who live their own lives, who share their own experiences, who are happy to give you advice or happy to talk about stuff, but they're also just human beings who are living their own lives, who want to just go to a place where they have something in common, which is they listen to an okay podcast. And that turned out fine. It's not anonymous. It's not, everybody has a username and stuff, but it's not that it's not anonymous. It's just that, you recognize people and then their behaviors and their patterns, and you start to just get to know people. And that is very different to like random off chance YouTube comments. And
less anonymous than Twitter, but still a degree of anonymity there that can protect bad actors that can slip into your community and sabotage it.
But not to us, because we can see their email addresses and their names thanks to Patreon signs up. But yes,
I have a story that I haven't told very publicly before. I mentioned this in a Discord conversation with the fans, but never on a public outlet to the world. Okay. And it's been a couple years, so I think it might be time. In the Super Bunny Hop Discord, a user showed up who started off fairly cordial and friendly to everybody before bringing the conversation to more and more political places. And in those political places, this user would talk about how they want the United States balkanized, how they want the United States to split up, and they want Trump to drive division. Even though this user would talk about what a big dummy Trump was and how he's an idiot, he still appreciated how Trump was bringing to light the divisions inherent in the states, and then said some uncouth things about nationalism and race. I Googled some of their language, and guess what came up? If I put quotation marks around some of the language they used, I'll let you guys take a few guesses of what forum Google found the same exact words this guy was using on.
Obviously some sort of terrible place.
Stormfront.
What's Stormfront?
Neo-Nazi forums.
Oh, hey.
Great.
Hey, how you doing?
So I DM'd this user. I told them that I did a Google search on some of the arguments that they made, and the exact same language was being made by a user on Stormfront, and they said, I don't know anything about that. I saw it on another forum I pasted it from. Sure, buddy. A few days later, he asks me for my fucking address. He says that I should try LSD, and he'll mail me in my address some LSD. And that's the point where, like, no, that was suspicious as hell. It was absolutely a clearly bad actor who was with fucking horrible intentions, who then shortly afterwards deleted their account and straight up threw it away. Like this shit happens. Like that's a worse story than Airport Girl. I've told the Airport Girl story, but this stuff still happens.
Oh, that's innocent though. Airport Girl is innocent. She's not a Nazi.
She's a worried fan.
I wouldn't say innocent, but not a Nazi, no. That counts as stalking. That was definitely a case of stalking. I was being stalked.
Well, listen. If you're a girl and you like George and you just happen to know what airport he's going to, bring some banana bread.
No, don't. Take me out to dinner first. Don't follow me to the airport.
Send me and Matt your resume and we can veto you.
Yeah. Please send your resumes to dadandsonspodcast@gmail.com.
I think it's that thing, right? It's so odd. Like in the interactions, the brief interactions I've had with some wonderful Dad and Sons listeners over the years, it's been great, but there are moments when they're like, oh my God, it's you. I listen to you every day. Like, I listen to you every week. You're amazing. Like, I love you and the guys. And oh my God, it was so funny when you got drunk and did this and all this. And I'm like, I forget how much people know about us because of this show, because of how much we talk about, right?
Yeah, we get a little real on this podcast, don't we?
There are some listeners with better memory than others who may be keeping tabs, and that makes me a little nervous, to be honest.
I mean, fair play to them in terms of like, oh, sure, I forgot about that, but hell, you remembered it. But there are things I like. If I watch a TV show that I really like and I get into it, I remember everything about the TV show, and I'm like, how is that any different? Really,
it's not.
There's a podcast I've listened to for literally almost 13 years. Like, I listen to it every week, a couple of times a week. It's a soccer podcast, so. It's called the Football Ramble in the UK.
Soccer podcast? You listen to a soccer podcast? Really?
It's a comedy soccer podcast, okay, that I listen to, and I've listened to for like 13 years. It's one of the first podcasts I ever listened to. Those guys have been going for years and years and years. And I obviously know about them a lot. And I actually met one of the guys years ago when I worked at Rockstar, when I went to watch one of their live shows. And I knew a lot about him, and then I knew he was into video games because of so I was like, hey, I work at Rockstar, etc., etc. And then I got to know him, and then I became friends with him, and I've known him ever since. And it's like, well, that started because I listened to him for like 3 or 4 years before I even met him, which is super weird. But I'm not a crazy weirdo. I'm just some dude who listens to him.
Liam's a stalker.
That's no. As someone who has been stalked, that's fine.
All Liam's friends know that he has stalked every single one of them and knows exactly how to manipulate his way.
How do you think I got into the games industry?
I ain't laughing.
How do you think I ended up on this podcast?
If anything, I feel like I would have been following you around because I was in your domain in Japan.
No, I how you and me started talking, it was a little stalkerish, actually. It was, and this is, it was, you tweeted some photos about where you were, and I was like, oh, I was there recently. Oh, it would have been good to see you.
That's not stalkerish.
And then you DM'd me like, hey, how do I get a visa to live in Japan? And then we ended up going from there.
Like, stalking is when you're being followed around in real life and you don't want to be.
Yes, it's very, very different.
Like stalking will make you feel unsafe. It'll give you that feeling that you're not alone when you think you're alone.
Well, that's just the way Liam has mastered the stalking ways.
Maybe Liam's just never alone. Anyways,
he is a stalking Jedi. Okay,
maybe you just haven't found out yet.
Stalking Yoda.
Yoda would be stupid good at stalking. He'd just float into the bushes. You can't camouflage. He's like green, wrinkly. It's a disruptive pattern.
See you, I guess.
Twitch stream, I see. Subscribe, I must.
Imagine that you're walking home from the Konbini at night, and you just hear a coming from a bush.
Yo, I'm out. There's no way. Like, it's funny now, but if you're outside and you hear like, no, that's a no from me, dude. It's like those like fucking game maker horror games that you find, and you just see like something in the bushes while your guy's walking across.
Nope.
It's a no from me, man. It's a no.
I'm Yoda laughing my way out of this conversation.
Well, we can end it with, if you like parasocial relationships,
then listen to the Dad and Sons podcast.
Listen to the Dad and Sons podcast. You can subscribe to us on YouTube on the Super Bunny Hop second channel. And do you know what? Let's expand our parasocial reach. Show us to all your friends. Get them involved. Let's create like a whole combine of human beings that have fake relationships with us. We love you all. You should subscribe to the Discord, of course, because as we've mentioned, it's amazing. And you know, I don't know, rate us on iTunes. Share us about. We never do any of this promotional stuff. And you know what? We're giving you goddamn free content every week with the people like Greg, who made Hades, who's way cooler than all of us. And you should have a parasocial relationship with him instead.
Paid content as well. We are doing our AMA session. It'll be over and done with by the time you guys are listening to this. But in case you're interested in having a actual one-to-one conversation with us over some of these topics we talk about, check out a $15 tier on the Patreon for our honorary AMA events. Once a month, we more or less have an episode like one of these, but with a group of fans asking us questions and leading the discussion along the way.
You can come ask me questions about my hernia, but if you're stalking me, you'll already know about it.
That's interesting. I hope no one got a hold of your medical records, Liam.
I don't even have a hold of my medical records. How will they have a hold of my medical
Somehow,
records?
Some way, I bet Facebook
I wish turning
does.
30 hadn't crumbled me into dust.
Why can't you just go to a website and pull up your medical records?
No, let's not make that easier. There's too many websites that have personal information of us out there.
Yeah, but I mean, you sign in. Like, there's no way for people to just.
I did think about getting one of those password things recently.
6-factor authentication, please.
Mm.
Let me use my fingerprint and retina scan.
It's so hard to get medical records, dude. You have to call a special number at the hospital that you were visiting at that time, and then ask them to go through verification, and they send you a fucking CD. And it's just like, what is this? What is it? Am I in the 90s? Like, what the fuck?
At least
is
make
this?
it
You
a
gonna burn me a
USB.
mixtape of my medical record?
Can you imagine if you did get sent one and it just had it had Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory on it or something stupid?
It'll be like mixtape volume like 26 or some shit like that.
Oasis's Wonderwall and Best
With
Hits.
some anime music videos.
Who even has a disc drive on their PC these days?
Hello and welcome to the Dad and Sons podcast. I am here with my lovely co-hosts, Liam and George. What are you guys doing today?
Oh god, it feels good to be back.
Does it?
Yeah, it feels like it's been, especially considering, obviously, you know, we had Greg on last time, and that was a bit of a...
Greg.
We tried to act professional for once, and pulled it off, but not our regular
Tried to act. That was a fantastic interview.
It
He sent me an
was.
email after about how thoughtful and interesting the questions were.
Aww.
Yeah. I didn't ruin it this time. I didn't have enough time to ruin it. I totally wanted to ruin it so badly. But George had like a structure there. He had the serious face on. I was like, nah. I don't have enough time for this.
I had a timed outline with like questions organized by priority with like limits we couldn't go over.
And I never got to tell him. I was like, I'm pretty sure I met you and told you how much I loved your games when Transistor was coming out. I met you at I think it was a PAX, and you were like, yeah, it's all right. Like,
Thanks, dude.
Thank you.
I hear it all the
I
time.
totally forgot to tell him that, man. I was like, oh god, I had to go to work, guys. Ugh.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
busy. We've been all busy. Like
Yeah.
Matt's like nailing it. I'm dying, and George is George.
George.
I don't know. I just really like dislike the way my life situation is arranged by now. I spent the past week playing way too much Hunt Showdown. Going back to,
Going
my
back
crack
to-
cocaine edition with that shit. Yeah, it's such a dragon to chase because I'm a fan of the solo play, right? And the solo rounds will either make you feel like an amazing Solid Snake or a dumbass Austin Powers. And it's psychologically nefarious how that game digs into my brain and makes me want to play another 30-45 minute round.
Back onto the crack cocaine.
Ugh.
Yeah, I haven't dived back in quite some time.
Dude, I mean, I love Hunt Showdown. It's an amazing, it's a great
amazing.
game.
Yeah.
Recommend it to people who like clever multiplayer stealth stuff. But Mike, that game is gonna be my downfall. I spend way too much time doing that and not living as a human being in planet Earth.
Oh god, I can't wait till you get addicted to like VR chat or some shit like that. You just like sit around and listen to some dude play guitar or some shit. That's
Well,
what I
you're
did a couple
socializing in
times.
that case. The Hunt Showdown player base is like fucking toxic sometimes.
Yes, it is.
And that makes me want to go back and get revenge. Like there's
Yeah.
so many things about this game that latch into my brain's vulnerabilities that fucking 5 years from now I'm probably going to be still playing Hunt Showdown. Everyone's going to wonder where I went. I'm just going to be in a room playing Hunt Showdown in like a box under the bridge.
You could become the guy. You could just be the Twitch streamer, the guy who just plays Hunt, like the guy.
But I'm not good enough at it. I've seen YouTube people do solo runs, and they like I'm too old to have the reflexes they do. But
Yeah.
I still just can't stop.
I know how we can fix that, George.
Oh yeah?
Play more.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But at what cost? At what
everything.
cost?
Everything.
It's so weird you bring this up, right? Like, do we live in an era, right? And this kind of comes up because of something that happened recently to somebody I knew. So how, like, I'm out of the loop here. Is being like a single game person a thing? Like, I know
Yes.
Fortnite
Yeah.
and League of
Yes.
Legends and all that, but like, if
Yeah.
you were the Hunt guy or you were the Rainbow Six guy,
It exists.
I think that's still a thing.
but you still have to be good, right? Can you be knowledgeable or do you have to be like good at the game?
There's funny.
Yeah.
Preferably both.
I mean, I'm talking to the guy who made his living off Guild Wars 2 for like years, so I feel like
Yes. And I was not good. I tell you that. I was not good.
So the reason I bring this up is because, interestingly enough, I found out that somebody I worked with has recently, a Japanese guy, recently quit his job because he's been doing YouTube stuff in the background. He's been a game developer for like 10 years or so, but he does
Oh, okay.
YouTube stuff in the background. And he was like, I'm leaving because I'm going to try and pursue my passion, which is YouTube and making videos, right? And I was like, wow, okay, good on you. You know, if that's what you want to do, good. And I checked his YouTube channel out. It's all in Japanese. And he only had 2,000 subscribers. Now I was like, then maybe you bit the bullet too fast, my friend. And the thing he plays is an old PSP game from 2007. And that's all he does.
No.
Is he talks and plays this PSP game from 2007. And that's it. That's all he makes videos about. And he's obviously very good at it. It's a PSP game called Why Do I Do This For You, My Lord?